Basketball Manitoba podcast, we have Robyn Boulanger. She was the 15U female provincial team head coach this last summer at Nationals in St. John's, Newfoundland. She played basketball in high school at the University of Winnipeg Collegiate, and she played her club basketball with the Anishinabe Pride Basketball Club, which her family helped start. She then played for the Center for Performance, the Manitoba Provincial Team, and represented the province at the North American Indigenous Games. After high school, she continued her basketball career and stayed at the University of Winnipeg with the Wesmen. She was part of the team in 2021 and 2022 that had a great playoff run where they won silver medal in both Canada West and at U Sport Nationals. She's now using her experience as an assistant coach with the Wesmen, helping young players improve. She started Zegi'idiwin Sport Performance, which helps athletes get better both on and off the court by combining Indigenous knowledge with sports and movement. Robyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so we were supposed to do this a long time ago. We were kind of talking about this offline because you coached the provincial team, and I was supposed to interview you before the provincial team, but the podcast went on a little bit of a hiatus. And so you're the first guest back since we came back from hiatus. So welcome. But awesome. Talk to me about the summer. I guess the first question I have is, was this your first time being the head coach of the provincial team?
Yeah, it was. And honestly, it was probably one of my first experiences head coaching at that level. I coached back in spring the very first little pebble run that we had with Junior Westmen and head coached the 17U part of that program. And I think that really confirmed that I do really want to try to take my coaching to the next level. And I'm currently changing that perspective of being, a high performance athlete now into a high performance coach. So, this summer was really that building foundation for me, being able to coach at that level. And, all the girls were great. And it was an amazing experience to kind of start coaching at that level for sure.
Nice. So who else is on the coaching staff with you?
So I coached alongside my good friend who actually played in the provincial team played of my final year at the University of Winnipeg, Julia Shasowski. So
Nice.
saying her last name wrong. Hopefully she doesn't get mad at me that I said it wrong. But yeah, it was great. We both kind of shared our love for the game and we felt like we didn't want to be done with it. So we teamed up and coached together this summer and it was nice for her to be there because she's a post player and she got to work with some of the girls that kind of are under that, that realm of being posts. And then I got to work with the guards and kind of lead the whole team in games and situations. And we also had a mentor coach, Evan Cox, who's also an assistant coach at the University of Winnipeg, and he was one of my assistant coaches as well in my last 2 years of at the University of Winnipeg. So yeah, definitely a great coaching staff. It was nice to have a mentor coach and also a good friend of mine on my side.
Nice. That's sweet. So I know this is typically at the higher levels because they'll do like the 2-year contract. So you'll do like Canada Games and stuff. Are you making the return next year or is that just to be determined still?
I would like to. I think I am applying for it. So
Okay.
the last year, the 17 U's got a 2-year contract and then
Okay.
they're doing another one. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in. I would love to coach again. And like I said, it was a great experience and I'm just trying to get that next level experience at that level.
Nice, nice. So
Yeah.
essentially telling me you have the coaching bug in a sense that you want to keep progressing and learning and advancing in
Mhm.
that realm.
Yeah, for sure. And just like going from, pacing the bench up and down, like being one of the decision-making coaches and going to sit and learn from Alyssa Cox right now, where I'm, as assistant coach and I'm more focused on individual player development. Sometimes I get the eager to be like wanting to do the in-game, like real thing,
Mm,
right? So I'm definitely missing that piece of coaching, but I am learning lots from Alyssa and the coaching staff and Murray Brown. And I'm learning alongside Megan Noonan as well. So we have a pretty cohesive coaching staff there. So just going to take what I learned from that and what I learned from the summer. And if I do get the chance to coach a provincial team in the future again, then I know what I need to improve on and what I can kind of adjust. And that's kind of the goal.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. I love it. So obviously you were a point guard, you handled the ball a lot when you played. You made decisions quite a bit when you played. So
Mhm.
what's the biggest transition from at least from a mindset perspective, going from, hey, I'm a player to now I'm a coach? Like, what was the one thing? And because I've experienced this, we all have. We make that transition. There's like these moments where you
Yeah.
kind of get slapped in the face. You're like, oh crap. What are some of those things that stood out for you?
I think the biggest thing is patience, I would say. Like,
Mm,
I really learned how to help players. Like I've always had patience, but like patience in a sense where I have to trust the process, the team process piece. Whereas
mm,
I was patient with a lot of kids that I've already been training through my programming, and through them it's all one-on-one. And then when I'm coaching a team, you got to remember that there is a team, that they're all together, they're learning together, not one person makes mistake, the whole team makes a mistake. So or, those are things that I would kind of just look at. Or even with me, I would even say if I made any mistakes, I would say, I'm so sorry. Like, let's move on. Let's do something new. Right. So being patient,
mm,
not with just the athletes, but also myself, because I am learning and they're learning as well. That
mm,
was one of the biggest things, at least right now, going from coaching. Because there are two perspectives to coaching. There's coaching, which is like skill development, which is something I'm doing right now. And then there's coaching like an actual team. So I need to be
mm.
able to learn on both sides. And I'm still on a learning journey and I always will be.
Yeah, yeah. I love
Yeah.
what you last said there. I always will be. That's how I know you'll be successful. That mindset right there will take you very far and then allow you to really enjoy what you do. So it's really good that you have that already. This early in your journey, because I've interviewed so many people. I've coached myself. I have tons of friends who are coaches, and some, I'm not going to say any names or anything. I'm not going to throw anyone under the bridge, but some people don't have that perspective, and
Yeah.
I'll go even further. For a lot of people, it takes them a while to gain that perspective. Like, oh, I really got to keep learning here, and you have that already. So
Yeah.
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always a learner. And even with my education, I always want to learn things. And I don't think like there's one right mindset to any answer, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm
Hmm.
saying that, and I think it stems from my values as an Indigenous person. So,
I love it. I love it.
mhm.
Well, we kind of started where you're at now. I want to go back to the beginning.
Mhm.
So, from what I read in the bio and what I know, like first time I remember actually seeing you play, I think was that with the Pride, right? Because at the time, I don't know if it was when I was the WNBA director, but I also had coach club teams and stuff like that. But I remember you playing. But obviously people just show up and you're like, oh, who's that? Hey, they're pretty good. And you just kind of know them from there. And then obviously you played at UW and stuff like that. But I want to go back to the beginning and I want to talk about some of your earliest memories of basketball. Um, I'll
Yeah.
just ask you straight up. What is your first, do you have a first memory or first few memories of basketball? Who introduced you to the game? How'd you get started?
Well, I would say my sisters. They're definitely the ones who kind of paved the path for me in my basketball career. But also my both my parents were pretty strong athletes when they were younger, both on ice. So my mom
Hmm.
was a speed skater and then my dad was also a hockey player. So we were kind of expected to be hockey related athletes, but um, I think we fell in love with basketball. And Raven, my oldest sister, Raven, who's about 6 years older than me, she kind of paved the route. So she started playing, and I was always the younger one watching her play. And then Skylar kind of fell through the same route, who's a few years younger than my oldest sister. So yeah, they really kind of just opened my perspective. I was always the one who came to the games and would watch them on the sidelines when I was a kid. And every time there was a every time there was halftime, I would always run onto the court and grab a ball and start shooting around in front of everybody. And I kind of got the nickname when I was a kid that I was like the halftime show and all that stuff
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
was throwing the ball from the 3-point line at like the age of like 7 or something like that, 8 at a very young age. I can't even remember, but yeah, I think I was like living in a gym every day because of my sisters, and
Mhm.
that's where I really fell in love with the sport. And yeah, I thank a lot for my parents also providing that opportunity for my sisters to play at that level while they started to create Pride.
Yeah, yeah. So was the Pride experience, the club experience, your first kind of organized basketball then? Or did you play anything before that?
I played a few club teams. Like I played community club for Tyndall Park.
Mhm.
The funny thing is, I tried out for the girls team at that age, and I just felt like I didn't fit in. I just was like, I don't know, I want to play with boys. So I ended up playing with the boys team at Tyndall Park.
Nice.
A few of them, like I just remember them vividly playing with a few of the guys that were raised in that area because I was raised in Sisler area and
Yeah.
not. So I remember playing, I think I have some old pictures playing for Tyndall Park Community Center. So that was pretty fun. And then I played I think a year with Mayhem at the time.
Hmm.
Again, bouncing between both girls teams and boys teams at the same time. And then yeah, and then I think it became around like 2008 is when my parents decided to create Pride. And yeah,
Okay. So around 2008, how old were you around then? Like what was the how old were you?
I was 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So then you started playing on the Pride team.
The team started in 2008. So
Yeah.
ideally, I was still at that age group where there weren't any high performance clubs yet.
Yeah.
Um, they were all for kids that are 14 and up, and I was only 9. And the only options we had were like developmental programs and also community programs, which is why I played for Tyndall Park Community Center at the time. And then as the years passed on, so around 2011, I'd say I joined Pride because I was finally old enough to be on
Got
like
it.
the Bantam team, we called it at the time, or the 14U team. So, yeah, a few years after they kind of founded Pride, I started playing for them, and yeah, that's where I kind of built my career as a player. So, yeah.
Nice. Nice. No, I love that. So then you were obviously younger. You're playing out like you were playing on older teams.
Yeah, I was young. I was playing with older players. That's kind
Yeah.
of was always for me. And yeah, I think sometimes I would get my butt kicked or also did the butt kicking too. So it was nice to be able to play with older players for sure.
That's awesome. So then, I mean, obviously, I guess, I mean, I don't even know because again, I'm out of the club scene, to be honest with you. I'm out of the basketball scene. This is like my one connection to basketball in Manitoba. And so is the Anishinaabe Pride, is the club still around?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
I guess I can start a little bit about how Pride became because I think it's really important.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you that, so
Oh,
let's
okay.
hear it. Yeah, yeah, let's hear it.
Starting it. But it actually ended in 2020,
Okay.
just COVID, and my parents put in about 12 years to the program, right? And um, based on which I'll talk a little bit but more later about my program, some of my program values was kind of stemmed from Pride, right? So I
Hmm.
started in 2008. My sisters just, I just felt like my sisters did not have any inclusive space at the time, right? In that time, that was when the TRC was just coming out, Truth Reconciliation Commission was coming out and developing this, this 94 calls to action because of what's happened in the past to Indigenous peoples. And so at the time, it was insane. It was, racism and stereotypes and, all those cultural oppression was all at the peak at that time. And my sisters unfortunately did face some of those barriers that Indigenous folks did experience, especially in sport. So my
Hmm.
parents just kind of had enough and wanted to create a program that was inclusive for Indigenous athletes and also kids that, want to play at the next level but don't have the access to it. So we were open to kids living in the inner city or low income housing or,
Hmm.
kind of we're in that kind of category. And we wanted to create inclusive space so they're able to actually access these, this next level of competition. So that was one of the main reasons why my mom and my dad wanted to create Pride. They started and with 8 players, my sisters being 2 of them. My dad was the coach. Looking back at it now as a coach perspective, I'm like, some of the things that he did, I was like, why? Anyways, I like to tease him about it a little bit. He's just the one
Uh,
who felt like he needed to step in and start
yeah,
coaching. So,
yeah.
yeah, he was always the quiet one in my family. So it was shocking to realize that he was the head coach for the original. But it was awesome. It was great to be able to go to those games as a kid and, already having the love for basketball and coming from my community games to watch my sisters play with people that are, very similar lifestyles around them.
Hmm.
And we kind of flourished from that and years started to pass on. The program started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. We had more athletes coming in, those of Indigenous backgrounds and also, people of color and those living in the inner city, which was huge. And we just kind of became this community, not just a basketball team. And that was like one of the biggest things that kind of made Pride unique from other club teams, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm like, obviously, I'm gonna ask you like your family started it, so that's super cool. So essentially, it was like it started off with just the one team, and it was your mom and dad. That was kind of it, and then obviously it just grew and grew and grew from there. How many
Yeah.
teams were there at its largest? Do you know?
I believe there was both boys and girls for each age group. There was a 14, 16, and 19U, I think there was at some time.
Hmm.
I don't remember the exact age groups, but it was there was three for each. So
Yeah.
6 teams, I would say at the most.
Yeah.
We also on the side, so as things started to progress and we started getting more people in to our program. Yeah, so as we started getting more people into the program, my parents have built this nonprofit, like everything was for nonprofit. We were able to get grant funding to be able to afford to actually put teams into programs, into club tournaments and club kind of organizations and season, like doing our basketball season and stuff. So one thing that we really liked as a group, as a player and a coach, is offering free kids camps. So kids that
Mm.
were 10, being able to who are not old enough to play at that level yet, but want to develop their skills. So we had it was called Pride Sundays. I think it was during the spring session or whenever like we weren't actually playing. We would host skill camps, and we've gotten a lot of kids that came through that, and it was like the sweetest thing to see little kids come together and just learn the fundamentals of basketball, and not just from, oh, hey Poppy, come here, Poppy.
Hello.
Poppy.
Nice.
Not just
Visitor.
yeah, not just come from yeah, just be able to come together and just learn things and learn from coaches that are playing in the program and not necessarily coaching the program because again, there's that whole circulation of pride that we really wanted to build is to build young leaders, and that was one of the biggest things is pride is built upon mentoring young kids, and
Mm.
we wanted to really emphasize those seven sacred teachings in our programming, which was huge. But yeah.
I, I love it. I love it. I love you just sharing your insights and your experience with that. Because yeah, I mean, it's when you said obviously pandemic and stuff like that, but like
Mhm.
at one point, like the Pride clubs were, one of the most active clubs in the province with regards to like,
Yeah.
yeah, like teams
We
and
competed for sure.
yeah.
That was one of the coolest things is that we competed at that level. And it just really showed that there's athletes out there that are phenomenal at the game, that can play at that next level. It's just it's so sad because there's not enough access to it. And
Hmm.
not a lot of people understand. And Pride was probably one like the only program that kind of offered free like basketball for to play at that level and compete. And a lot of the players that we've had come through have gone to play pro or have
Hmm.
decided to pursue post-secondary education. Like education was huge. Who are now fathers and mothers, like success is at its
Hmm.
own level, right? And it's huge to see that, and it's awesome to see that. And we had about, I would say, like around 500 athletes that have come through the program since 2008 to like 2020. So,
Hmm.
it's really empowering to see that, and it's sad that there's nothing like that anymore. Because even now, in today's world, like it is expensive to play basketball now
Hmm.
than it
Hmm.
was back then, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
for my programming, like I'm trying to get to that point where I can give that access to those youth, right? So,
Nice, nice.
mhm.
Well, that was a huge part of your obviously your journey and your connection to the game and your love for the game with family and community, as you mentioned.
Mhm.
You played at the Collegiate, the University of Winnipeg Collegiate as well.
Mhm.
But I want to kind of not fast forward necessarily because I mean, like you had a crazy career. I remember again, things are kind of coming to my mind. Did you not play as a super young kid with your older sister at some point? Like you were the young kid on the team. You guys played together, right? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah, Skylar, well, she played 5 years for Tanya McKay, and
Yes.
at the University of Winnipeg, and I was lucky enough to have that age gap to be able to be her rookie. So my first year.
Nice.
Yeah, so
Nice.
she was the grandma, I was the rookie. So I could play one
Nice,
year with
nice,
her, and that was probably my favorite year to be able.
nice.
My sister was insane. We had some pretty good highlights actually. So yeah.
Nice, nice. Did you play like on any club teams with her? The age gap was way too big, I guess, at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
it was too
Yeah.
much, but
Yeah.
we still like played pickup and we play together till this
Yeah,
day.
of
So
course. Of course, I
it's
can
there, but
imagine.
not at the age. It was really tough.
Yeah. So then the question I have is, I mean, you obviously were super skilled. I mean, you still are, but like in high school and younger, like you were the thing that stood out for you was your skill level was very high, right? You could shoot the ball, you can handle the ball, like your ability just to kind of get wherever you want on the court is always something that I remember. So why did you decide to stay at the University of Winnipeg? Like, was it ever a doubt that you were going to go there? Or did you just know? When did you know? Tell me about how
Yeah.
you transitioned there.
For sure. I mean, like as a kid with big basketball dreams, you always want to think about leaving home and wanting to play, Division 1, Division 2, or play at the best level that you can play at. But honestly, I wasn't that like wanting to. It didn't feel like I wanted to leave. I just felt like I wanted to be close to home because very family oriented, and I wanted to be able to represent my community close as possible. So I just felt like the University of Winnipeg was a second home to me at that point.
Mhm.
Going there in grade 9 all the way until 2023. So that's a long time that I was on campus as
Yeah.
a student, as an athlete, and now as a teacher, so and a coach. And it was definitely not a no-brainer for me at that time, and I knew that I wanted to play with my sister, and I felt like I knew my role stepping in. I worked my butt off to be where I was and to actually have the opportunity to see the floor quite frequently in my 5 years. So that was really nice to be able to be and make a difference on the team. So that's why I felt like it was just the best opportunity for me. Although there were some struggles throughout it, I felt like I, persevered and came over it.
For sure. For sure. And now you're still there.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah,
leave. It's,
I
I don't know,
know.
are you staying or are they just making you stay? Which one is it?
I have no idea, but I mean, it feels like home. I don't know, like it's weird because I've been there for so long. Like
Hmm.
it doesn't even feel like I've been there that long. It just feels like yesterday I was going into grade 9, and now I have two bachelor's degree from the university, and I finished my career. And I really try to tell that to the rookies and like that I'm coaching right now. It's the years go by quick. Like really trying to make, everything last. And one day you're gonna wake up and it's your 5th year and you're struggling to get out of bed like I do till this day. So yeah, it's definitely a journey, and we'll see what comes forward with it for sure.
For sure, for sure. So, you've been at University of Winnipeg in some capacity for a long time. We talked a little bit about the Pride. Tell me about some of your biggest mentors and kind of like maybe some of the lessons you've learned and the influences they've had on you in basketball and in life just generally.
Yeah. That's such a tough question because automatically my mind goes to, my family. I don't
Mhm.
think no, there's not any big figures outside of my family that I kind of was like looking up to, and someone that I relied on. It was always my sisters. It was always Raven and Skylar who were there for me or paved that path for me. And it's they fell in love with basketball and I fell in love with basketball, that everything that came with it. And yeah, I would say they're probably my biggest mentors, and they're the reason why I wanted to push to be able to play more, play at the next level, and be able to get a higher education. So I'm a little competitive between us three, I would say. I like to say I'm always the better one, just because
Nice.
I've competed at the higher levels, and they're gonna be annoyed that I said that, but
Uh,
they support me 100%. Every game, every grad that I had, every little success I had, they were by my side. So I would definitely say my sisters are my biggest mentors.
nice, nice. I love that. I love that. And then so now you're transitioning to coaching. Now
Mhm.
you said you obviously do individual stuff. You're not becoming a head coach. You will now obviously be other people's mentor, or maybe even have already to this point. Do you have a mentor when it comes to, or even someone that you look up to, or you seek out for guidance when it comes to coaching? Because now you're getting to that realm, right?
Yeah, for sure. Again, I'm learning, and like one person that sticks out to me is definitely Alyssa Cox. She coached me when I was in the provincial team program. So, but I always think every person's different, and you can always learn from anybody, right? Like
Mhm.
pulling things from different people. And I like to think that my coaching style, as it's going to develop, I'm hoping it's unique from others just because of my experience as a player. But a lot of the things I am learning, like game related things and all that kind of stuff, is stemming from Melissa because I am
Nice.
there like 3 times a week, and I actually just got back from a trip with them. So again, that's the next level mentorship I'm probably getting right now.
Nice, nice. So more on the like the tactical
Yeah,
skills side. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
Like I find myself, I'm a very, just because I'm a phys ed teacher, that's natural
Yeah.
to me is, coaching, being present, gym voice, instructing, all those things. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I'm pretty confident at, and I can always learn and whatever, I'm working on it. But I feel like the tactical piece is huge, and that's where I'm learning a lot right now with Alyssa. So yeah.
Okay. Okay. I love that. So do you think when obviously you were a player not too long ago, what is the shift in maybe mindset from a tactical perspective that you have to take from when you're on the floor and you have the ball in your hands and you can influence the game to now? Because again, you were handling the ball quite a bit, like you had an influence on that on the game, but now to being the coach's role.
Mhm.
Um, did you when you switched, did you think like, well, I don't know as much as I thought I did, or were you like, I know all this stuff, I just need to learn how to teach it? Like, what was that the difference between the player and the coach from a tactical perspective, and like what you understood on the floor? Does that make sense?
A little bit. I could try to get an answer. I know what you mean. The one thing is like the whole piece of preparing for competition is like huge, especially at the university level. I would always like as a player, I would just come to practice, do what I needs to be done, and just know like, hey, this is things that we're developing specifically for the opponent that we're playing. But like the whole background information of that is preparing for a team, right? That's one thing. Even in the summer, it's a little weird because you're playing one person, one team, one province, and it's done. You don't even know who's on the team because it's not an
Mhm.
ongoing team, right? But there are conversations, there are like that players may be returning or showing up to an earlier game that day and scouting them out and doing all those things. Like I think that's the biggest shift for me is how much work that coaches have to do to prepare the athletes to
Yeah.
the best ability. Right. And I
Yeah.
want to, like, my goal is like long term, I do want to coach at the youth sport level. I want to be a university coach. So, like, starting now as early as I can, and learning these things, I hope is going to benefit me down the long run. And like I said, even just those last 2 months of being an assistant coach for DW, and last year I was in and out a little bit. I wasn't like a set assistant coach. I didn't really have a set role. I was just there to help and be a voice if I ever need anything. But now I have more of a voice, which is awesome that Alyssa's giving me. And I'm able to work and connect with athletes and do the pregame tactical stuff, which is actually really sweet. And if I again like I get if I get a future in coaching another provincial team, then I have those changes that I can make, and I think I've been already learning enough in this last 2 months.
Nice, nice. I love it. I love it. Okay, I want to talk more about your basketball story because like the coaching thing is all intermingled, but we'll just keep going back and forth. But
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about the I want to talk about two things. One, obviously the provincial team, and then I also want to talk about the NAG, so the North American Indigenous Games. And so first question is how many years did you play on the provincial team?
I played 2014, 2015, 2016. So
Okay.
3 years.
So by
Yeah.
3 years. And did you play in any Canada games in those
Mm,
years? You miss it by 1 year.
so what happened is 2015 was Canada Games, I believe. I don't know if the
Okay.
date is right, but a lot of girls my age played Canada Games. I was chosen to play with the 17 U's.
Uh,
So I played with like Keelan,
yeah.
Kiana,
Yeah.
Faith Hezekiah, like Razel, all those girls. But I was also a bench player. So, and I was fairly injured that summer too, but I took it as a summer to learn. And we won a silver medal at nationals. It was the year after they won gold. I was in 15U.
Okay.
But I really wanted to try to challenge myself and play. Like I said, I've always played against all the competition. I really wanted to challenge myself and play with players like those big names, right? So I got the experience. It was definitely a great experience. Sucked that I didn't get to play much, but hey, like I said, I've always told a lot of girls that I'm mentoring to till this day, like trust the process and look what it came out of, right? So
Yeah.
after that year, then I came back for my final year for 17U and had the best kind of experience because I played the best I can. I got third team all-star. Like it just those things just kind of showed that I really worked my butt off the last 2 years before that.
Yeah, yeah, I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. And so then tell me about so then how many times did you play for the NAG team?
I only did 1 year.
1 year? Okay.
Yeah, 2019 in Toronto.
Okay.
I was supposed to do the 2014 one, but I chose to play provincials instead because I wasn't able to do both, sadly.
Okay.
It would
Okay.
have been
Yeah.
awesome if I did, but it's
Are they every 4 years? The NAG
yeah.
NAG games? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they just had it in Halifax and they're doing it in Calgary, I believe, 2026 or something like that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice, nice. Any ambition to coach any of those teams?
For sure. I do really want to coach at the next NA games. That's the goal.
Nice, nice. Okay, well, whoever makes those decisions, you just said it.
Fingers crossed.
We're putting it out there right
Okay.
now.
Sounds good.
So then you played in Toronto then. How was that? Like just generally, of course, being an Indigenous person, like, I know people who've played in those games before and they like speak very highly of it. Like, what did it mean to
Yeah.
you?
It was awesome. Like I said, it was my first nationals and a lot of the or first NA games. And a lot of the girls I was playing with already went through the 2014 process and told me all the things because there were a lot of the girls that played Pride at the time, right? So I was really close with them and I felt a little jealous of them having that experience in 2014. But I knew at that time I needed to make the best decision I can for my development. So that's why I chose provincial team. But now it's getting even more competitive. It's insane. I went to the Halifax one last summer to watch and watching the players. I was like, this is awesome. But going back to 2019, yeah, it was great. Learned a lot. Being able to play with, again, that whole inclusive space with athletes that have the same experience that I did and being able to play against those athletes and meet new people. And I think that was the biggest thing that came out of it. And that whole cultural and sport connection kind of stemmed my interest in that kind of field. So yeah, I do definitely think NEG in Toronto specifically kind of helped me kind of help this vision that
Yeah, yeah,
I've already have known basically through Pride.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Helped you kind of lean into it even further or connect deeper with it. Maybe it's a good way to say it. Oh, he's right in front of the screen. Sorry,
Yeah.
what's your cast name?
Her name's Poppy.
Poppy.
Yeah.
Okay, like paw as in paw or poppy as in the flower.
Poppy the flower.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
I
a
just
little
loves
cutie.
jumping up on the desk.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So no, I love that. And you already put it out there. You want to coach. So again, I don't know who makes these decisions, but you'll be there. What was it? You said it's Calgary 26, you said?
I think so. Yeah,
Okay.
wait. 20. Yeah. Every 3 or 4 years. I can't
Okay.
remember.
Okay. So
Yeah.
it's coming up soon. It's coming up soon.
Yep.
Okay. Well, another big thing that happened in your career, and I think you could tell me if this is no, this is not wrong. I was gonna say I almost thought for a second that it was Tanya's last year of coaching, but it wasn't. But you guys had a really big run um in 2021, 2022, I believe it was. Can you just, I mean, again, I don't want to like ask you specifics, but if any stories pop up with this, but what are some of the most memorable moments from that season that you remember?
Oh boy. Um, I would probably say like memorable is it's the whole year was memorable, I would say. Being able to win silver at the new sports nationals and Canada West, even though we should have won. It is what it is. I always say we were meant to get silver. Quick little side story. Four of us decided to represent Manitoba at the 3-on-3 championships in Toronto that year too.
Yeah, yeah.
Guess what? Came in second. So I guess
So,
we were just built for second that year, but yeah, I wouldn't take that year back for anything. Like being able to play at a U Sport national championship like
Mhm.
that, like was insane. The energy, the different like the just the feel being there and being on a court at that level and that stage really just kind of showed that our hard work, was benefited through that. And it was you would wake up, you would literally truly live that life that a lot of people see on social media as Division 1 athletes, players
Yeah,
do. That's how
yeah,
it felt. Like you go on social media, you go on TikTok, day in the life of a Division 1 athlete. Like
yeah,
that's how it felt. Whereas like in Canada, it doesn't like if you're just playing a regular season game, it doesn't really feel that way, right? But we got treated like princesses out there. We've game time, game prep, all those things were huge. And I think the championships definitely were something that I remember and that last game, it was really tough and gut-wrenching, but I think we were all just really tired. It was the longest season we've had. It went into April and usually seasons go until, March,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
With COVID, we had to extend it because every second weekend we had to not see other teams in case people got sick.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so that year was definitely a memorable year because at the same time it was a weird year, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
playing one weekend and then not playing the next weekend, playing only teams in the prairies, some Manitoba and
Yeah.
Sask. Super weird, right? And seeing and meeting teams at the national championships that we've don't even like we haven't even played against, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was great. The players I played with, great names, till this day. It's yeah, and I definitely miss that team for sure.
Hmm. So
Hmm.
I got to ask you then. So the last game in, again, I don't want to bring up any any wounds if they're still fresh or
No, it's
whatever, but
fine.
the
That's
last game,
years
give
ago.
me the your synopsis, the breakdown or a story about both gold medal games. Who'd you play in Can West?
Sask.
That's
So
okay.
that was an ongoing rivalry throughout the whole year, and
Yep.
we went back and forth with each other with wins and losses. But yeah.
Yeah. And then the last game, what?
Ryerson, which is now Toronto Metro, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys are right then. Yeah.
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 And that's a really good coach team, like, and they had really great players at that time. That game was, yeah, it just felt like I closed my eyes and I opened my eyes and the game was over. That's how it felt.
Really.
Game. I was also, yeah, it was a lot that week, and I think a lot of our energy went into that Queens game that we played in front of the home crowd, which was like
Hmm.
600 people there. It was insane,
Hmm.
and we only won by two. And I love games like that. Those are the games that I love. The close games, like that,
Yeah.
I love, right? And I think everybody wants, as a player, wants to be in that position to be able to play those close games. I would say,
Hmm.
if you're not a competitor,
Hmm.
if you don't want to do that,
Yeah,
right?
for sure. For sure.
So I would
100%.
say, yeah, that those two. The SAS game was close as well, I believe. I can't remember exactly, but
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. No, that's good. And so, but that wasn't was that your last year? No, that wasn't your
No,
last
that was
year.
my
Yeah.
fourth year. So
Yes. So what was
yeah.
your last year like? You have all this, like, you're at, like on this high, and then your last year, because the last year for a lot of people, if you don't go out like that, it's almost like this. And I've heard this from so many players, experienced it myself, because it's your last year. And so it's like it can be a weird experience, but tell me a little bit about what you remember from your last year, your last game, your last moments.
Yeah. I, as a player, if we're going down to the statistical piece, that was my best year yet. I was in the best shape I was ever in. Best shape mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And I felt like with some graduating players that were leaving, I felt like I needed to step into a big role to be a scorer, right? And to be and make that because I knew what my role was in my fourth year as, one of the starters that with one of the best lineups in Canada West at the time, in U Sports at the time. And I knew what my role was, and it was to help facilitate the floor and help to shoot the ball on the 3-point line and, do my role to put us at the best opportunity. And from going to that perspective to losing the coach that helped us that year, and then to getting Alyssa, who knows me as a player, to coach me in my final year, was a huge adjustment, but I had personal goals and I wanted to achieve those goals. And we didn't really know at the shift of what it was gonna look like, who we were gonna get, what was gonna happen. And then we realized that we were gaining two phenomenal players, and they definitely made my year. Being able to play with Julia again, so she transferred over from CMU, and then being able to play with probably my favorite player I've ever played with since I was a kid, Razel.
Mhm.
We just had this unspoken chemistry together. I literally was sitting one day in a hotel room with her and going through a video one time, and I was like, wait, this looks very familiar. Like I remember going 2-on-1 and giving you the ball and you getting an and one and me standing on top of you going, yeah, let's go. And then I pulled up a video from my old mom's Facebook, and it was a video of us playing provincial team, the same thing, me going up the
That's
court,
cool.
one, handing it off to her, and she gets an and one. So yeah, I really, really, really like enjoyed my last year. It was the best year I could ask for, even though, we didn't make it to the final four. We actually lost in the quarterfinals, but we weren't really expecting to be that losing Faith Hezekiah and Keelan, right?
Mhm.
The year before coming off of a nationals run. But we competed. Like our team was really good. We gained some players from BC, some of the girls who are still in the team that I'm, good friends with. Anna, we had Anna still, Anna Kernahan. We had Kiana Joel still. And we had a solid underdog team. And I don't think a lot of people thought we would compete, but we actually did. We were a top 10 team the whole season.
Mhm.
So, just to be in that top 10 was 100% memorable for me. And even though it was, heart dropping to be able to lose to Calgary and not make the Final Four, I still, thought that that year was super successful. And I really, really look back at that year and very proud of how we did and how I went out of the University of Winnipeg. And yeah,
Mhm.
I couldn't ask for a better ending.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, yeah, because there was a lot of shift, a lot of change, a lot of stuff happening then. So,
Mhm.
uh, yeah, to still be able to have a successful um year and to still be grateful and have personal success and team success, I mean, it's big time. So,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Yeah, it's one of my favorite years, I would say. It's up
yeah,
there for sure.
I love it. I love it.
Hmm.
Okay, so we've kind of gone through the whole career as a player for the most part. Um, I'm just gonna ask you directly, like, what inspired you to start coaching? Because we started off the call or the interview here saying, you know what, I'm really gonna take this coaching thing seriously, right? And that's how we started it. And so, coming full circle back to that, why is what has inspired you to really step into those shoes?
Yeah, I just love the game so much, whether it's as an athlete or as a coach. I just love being around basketball. I see what basketball can do for young individuals. I like to say that picking up the basketball myself as a kid has changed my whole, career as a person and changed my whole success in my life that I got until to this day. Basketball helped me prioritize education. I'm currently doing my Master's of Education at University of British Columbia right now, and I graduate in
Nice,
July. And the
nice.
goal is to further my education and further my professionalism as a coach. And I'm looking into a Master's of Coaching program.
Yeah.
I want to do my Master's of Coaching. Just I
Okay.
know a lot of people don't have that, but I think I'm at a young age. I think I could really benefit from it. Again, like I said, I'm always wanting to learn. A lot of people are, you're going back to school right away. Like, not a lot of people do their master's right away. They take a few years
Hmm.
to work, and I'm lucky enough with my career right now to be able to balance both. So, yeah, that's a goal of mine to further. But like I said, I love the sport so much. I've seen what it done for me, and I want to do the same for other athletes. Not just, non-Indigenous athletes, but also prioritizing Indigenous athletes because sport really does help with changing the lives of Indigenous youth and being able to promote it in that sense in a positive way is one of the main goals of mine as both as a coach and as an educator as well.
I love it. I love it. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's I think a lot of people when you talk to them, I've heard people say as much as it's basketball saved their life or it's inspired them to action. It's been their life. It's helped given them community. There's lots of different things. And so I share a similar connection with the game that you did. And I probably got into coaching when I coach for the same reasons that you do
Mhm.
as well, is to connect with community and it gives you so much, right? And you just love being around it. So I love to hear that. I want to talk about your program and full disclosure. I destroyed. I People who are listening now, if you see how the name is spelled and it's Ojibwe, right?
Yeah,
If you don't have any experience with this, you may butcher the name like I did. So I'm not even going to say it. I'm just going to get you to say it. But you do have. I want you to tell me about it. So first, say the name, and then tell me what it is, and then we're going to talk
sure.
about why you started it.
Okay, let's do it. Yeah, a lot of people, uh, once they start saying it more, it gets a little easier.
Yeah,
I've noticed that. But it's Zaagi'idiwin Sport Performance.
there it is.
So,
Zegi'idiwin.
yeah, so ideally I wanted to just stemming, like I mentioned, through Pride, I really valued the values that was teach within Pride, which is one of the main ones is integrating the seven sacred teachings into the game of basketball. That was the main goal. And that's what I did up until my final playing as a fifth year player playing for the University of Winnipeg. And I'm still using it as my coaching, right? And I'm trying to shift that focus. So I really wanted to try to develop something where I could teach and coach young athletes who are Indigenous and non-Indigenous athletes to kind of get that experience at the next level. Skills coaching, individual skill coaching is starting to get more popular now with, that become a career for a lot of coaches, right?
Hmm.
So, like the people that I've met over the last 2 years that we've been running Zegi'idiwin, um, I'm able to connect with athletes one-on-one and provide them skill services. So, like being able to get on a court and going through game-like things that will actually transition into a game instead of putting them in a practice where they're doing a three-man weave the whole time. It's
Hmm.
very specific, very game-like skills that we try to work on. But also the importance of the mentorship piece. So being able to take a kid out for coffee and, hey, how's school going? How's life going? And not a lot of kids have that access to mentors. And, like I got really lucky with my sisters, but not everybody has older sisters that do love the game as much as they do, if that makes sense. So,
Mhm.
that's one thing that I try to provide and promote is that mentorship piece, which is unique. And then the one thing is integrating Indigenous knowledge into the sport. So I've had even a few non-Indigenous athletes I was coaching who, again, I'm never going to force Indigenous culture on people. It's if you want to learn it, hey, here's a way I kind of did it as a player. Maybe you can try it too and see if it helps. But one of the things I've done with some of my non-Indigenous athletes and Indigenous athletes as well is sit down and go through a chart of the medicine wheel. And the medicine wheel is the teachings that come with the medicine wheel are very different in any indigenous culture. And for my way that I was taught it is looking at it from a health perspective. We have four quadrants in the medicine wheel. It's a big circle. And the four quadrants is into two halves, right? Two and then in the middle. And we got physical, emotional, spiritual, and social, right? Those are our mental and emotional interchange both. But one thing as a player, and as a person is to be balanced in those four quadrants. How can you
Mhm.
be balanced in those four quadrants? So we have balancing in physical and mental, and then we have a social, spiritual. So I think as a player, you really need to try to be balanced in each four quadrants, right? It's not all about the physical, right? We always hear the saying that mental health is just as important as physical health. That's how Indigenous peoples have seen it, since way before time. They've also seen the other health components that integrate and intersect with those two, which is social. Like, how are you socially? Are you an independent person? Are you reaching out to people? Are you building good relationships with people? Relationality is huge in Indigenous cultures, right? And then there's the spiritual piece, which is something hard for a lot of people to unpack. But are you being spiritual? And spirituality is not just focused on religion and what kind of religion do you practice. It also can be like anything to keep your mind right and your mind clear, right? So yoga or meditation, all those things
Mhm.
kind of fall into that. Are you being balanced in those quadrants? And the biggest thing is you want your circle to look full. You don't want it to look
Mhm.
like full and then slow and then full
Mhm.
again, right? Because if it's like that, it's in balance, then maybe there's something going on in your life where you need to be able to reflect and look back like, hey, I need to change this. So looking at it from a medicine wheel perspective is something huge that I was taught from my parents. Again, every medicine wheel teaching is different. But that's something I was grown up on, and I think it really helped me through the hard times I did have as a player.
Mhm.
My second year, I'll tell you a little story because you like stories. My second year,
Mhm.
so my first year, I had a great year playing for the University of Winnipeg. Was on the all rookie team. I really valued my social quadrant maybe a little too much. I was 18. I didn't care about school. I didn't even know what I wanted to be or what I wanted to do with my career. So that really impacted my grades going into my second year. So my second year came around, and because of that, not doing the best academically, my mental started to fall a little bit, and things going on in my personal life started to fall down, right? So I felt imbalanced in both of those, and that impacted my
Mhm.
physical piece and my
Mhm.
spiritual piece. And my second year, I'll say it was my worst year of my career because I just I didn't perform the best I can. My mental health was low, my physical health was low, like, and then I was really trying to build on what can I do to change, right? Let me go back to my spirituality. Let me go to sweat lodges, which I did. Let me continue smudging before a game, which is something I practice, right? Put cedar in my shoes. Those are all integrating spirituality into the game. And once I started making those tiny changes, things just started getting better and better and better. So it just really like putting it in that format, might be rambling a little bit, but in that format, I just really found that it's something that could really help players is looking at it from those four quadrants. Like if I'm struggling to perform on the court, it's not a me problem. It's things going on that I need to figure out, if that makes sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um,
Love that.
yeah, so and
Love
I
it.
I also think a lot of people think COVID was the worst year, but actually COVID really helped me just slow down and look at my medicine wheel, work on my medicine wheel. And
Mhm.
that's why I came back, got my fourth year, fifth year in, and best years I had in my career.
Yeah. I love that. I love that the idea of the medicine wheel integrating that, right? Because again, like the idea of some form of balance in your life, right? But the thing that I like about it, because it doesn't, you don't have to be indigenous to understand the concept and look at it and be like, yeah, this makes sense. Like these are all the parts of my life that have bring value to me and keep you literally rounded. So I
Mhm.
love it. I love it. And I love that you're teaching that and using that as sport, because I always said to people, and at least I learned it when I was coaching and then like going through sport myself and basketball, is like for me, it was all those skills that I learned and the trials that you have and all that. They like you grow with them, right? And you learn from them. At least you should in the most positive senses, I think. And I think the people that I saw that had the most success in sport and enjoyed sport the most, basketball, they understood some of those concepts, right? Like, and just at least live them, even if they didn't necessarily have the symbol to represent them. And so the fact that you can like bring that in and like teach it to people as a way to give them like a base and something to like, um, almost like not a vision, but something that they can like really like they can always go back to it. I think is probably the best thing to say, right? And it's going to like help guide them, right? So I really like that. I really, really like that. So what year, how many years have you been doing it now? The
In 2023,
Okay.
so last summer. The idea just started in 2023.
Okay.
I started visiting. So one thing that we do on the side, I try to do on the side as much as I can with my schedule is building relationships with communities. So again, like there's nothing going on in communities. There are players, there are basketball players. Um, and I try to really figure out how can I bring this to some of the youth, right? So one
Mhm.
thing we do is community engagement. So being able to travel to communities and provide basketball programming, that's the side thing that we do as well, right?
Love
Because
it.
thing is they don't have anybody out there that want to, come and teach them how to play basketball or how to be
Hmm.
active individuals. Like I'm really like trying to promote that is you can be active, not even with sport. You can if as long as you know how to learn to move your body in the spaces that you are in, the environment you're in, right? It's going to make a huge difference. And that's something I go into communities promoting is not just basketball, but those skills as well. Like be active individuals and
Hmm.
it will help you long term, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's something we do on the side. So we kind of started in 2023, started visiting a few communities, doing some programming and being able to get on court with some of the kids, building relationships. And one thing that we do is we don't just go to a community and be like, hey, like let's do programming and then let's leave and never talk to you again. Our focus as an Indigenous knowledge focus, at least, is that ongoing relationship. Um,
Mm-hmm.
being able to go back to those communities and knowing who you are, you're building that trust with the community, and that's the biggest.
Hmm.
You're not just going in to do a program and then leaving and never talking again. So
Hmm.
that's one thing we try to focus on is how many times can we visit the community and how many times can we provide this programming for them and build those relationships. So yeah, that's a side thing we're doing as well. And you know, it was a few weeks ago. We went to Barons River, which is where I'm from, and that's a big disconnection for me and my culture at the time where I had to reflect on is I never really visited community because I was so busy as a youth playing basketball.
Hmm.
So it was so awesome to be able to go back and go there for I think it was my third time in my whole life and my 24 years of living and to still be welcomed like that, even though I'm like I say I'm from there, my family's from there, but I never lived on reserve. I've never been raised on reserve. So being able to go there and have people come in and say, "Hey, you're my cousin," and feeling that love and welcome, I just felt like home. So it was really cool to have that experience, and it was all through developing my program. So
Nice.
yeah.
Nice. I love that. So you have big goals for the program, obviously, like to continue to grow it and do these build these
Yeah.
connections.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The long-term goal is to have an Indigenous-owned gym here in Winnipeg that
Nice.
has a
Nice.
basketball court that has space for, knowledge sharing, and has space for strength and conditioning programming,
Let's
and
go. I
that's the
love
big
it.
thing. So, court with all the fancy little basketball skill equipment that you see out
Yeah,
there
yeah,
nowadays, a
yeah,
Dr. Dish shooting machine and
yeah,
heads and cones, and then on the side having some like a weight training gym just for, again, that inclusive space to bring in
yeah,
more fitness peoples to just be active individuals and it's not
yeah.
necessarily just through sports. So that would be the goal is to own a gym and yeah, coach at the university level, hopefully, fingers
Let's
crossed.
go. Let's
Teaching time
go.
here right now, so that's my goal.
I love it. I love it. I love it. We're putting all this stuff out here, so you know it. I love it.
Mhm.
I love big goals and big dreams and just the community part and just yeah,
Yeah.
it's exciting stuff. So, okay, so we're coming to the end here.
Mhm.
I like to wrap up with a bit of advice. You're new to the coaching game,
Mhm.
so I'm not going to ask you to give advice to people who want to coach, but you're kind of a vet when it comes to the playing game. And so I want the way I like to set it up is thinking if you were talking to the provincial team, right? They bring you in, hey, Robyn, can you talk to the provincial team, like just for inspiration or tell me about your experience, something like that. Um, and you wanted those group of athletes to walk out of the room and have a concept or a story or something that they can leave with that you would want, because they're not going to, you know how it is, they're not going to remember everything. Like you would talk to people, typically they remember like one or two things that you said that just resonated.
Mhm.
But if I want what the question is really is what would be the one or two or three things at the most that you would want those players to take from the talk that you gave them about basketball, just about maybe taking some of your lessons and passing it on to them? What would stand out to you, your mind? What would you want them to walk out of that room with?
Um, yeah. I would say basketball is more than just a game. Um, it really can help form someone's identity, of who they want to be, who they choose to be, and to be aware of that, right? And, if basketball's something that you want to take further, then there are the opportunities there. If not, there are other opportunities that basketball can help you, thrive through. And um, I just think basketball and community and culture is huge. And one thing I'm trying to focus on in my study right now is connecting identity, culture, and sport and bridging the gap between those three. And I do it in my coaching. I do it in, my teaching and my lead as a business owner now. So, yeah, I would say that's the biggest thing is basketball is more than just a game.
Hmm. Love it. That's some of the greats that I've interviewed had said that exact same thing. It's like once you understand that you're not playing basketball, you're playing the game of life, you'll start
Mm,
winning it, right? And I was like, oh, this is amazing. Like that's just great info. And you essentially just said that same thing, right? This is how you get people to follow your lead, enjoy the process, all that stuff is understanding how to connect with them and all the other elements. It's not the game is just the way maybe that these things all get expressed, so I
yeah,
love it. I love
sure.
that. Oh, visiting again.
Come here,
can't
Poppy.
can't get enough. Poppy cannot get enough. There's a
She can't.
There you go. Super cute.
Yeah,
I
she's a needy cat. She's
can see
a
that.
she's a Bengal, so she always needs energy.
Oh, okay. Super.
And
Yeah, I was gonna say like it looks big.
yeah, she's a big cat. Oh,
Holy. Okay, well, on that note, like I said, I appreciate you taking the time. I wish you all the luck. We've put a few things out
you.
there. You've put a few things out there. We got some big goals and some big dreams, but I mean, at the end of the day, you said it from the start. Like you're like, I'll never stop learning, and that alone, I already know that you're going to succeed in so many ways and inspire people. So I appreciate you coming on the podcast,
Yeah, well,
and
thank you for having me.
yeah,
It was awesome. It
absolutely.
was great.
I'm happy we were able to connect.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Okay, take care.
Thanks.
Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please like, subscribe, follow, and share this series, and reach out to us with your comments on the show. Thanks again for joining us.